Welcome into Sports Memo's betting podcast, talking Thursday college basketball with Mid-Major Matt. Mid-Major Matt, welcome to the podcast. How you doing?
Doing well, Drew. Very sad that there's no Thursday night Gonzaga game, so we can't take the first half over tomorrow night.
It's been a nice run, though. You've been nailing these first half over in the Gonzaga game as your best bet, but you got a best bet on board, right?
Yes, we do. We'll certainly get to it as we go along with our 5 games for today.
All right, let's go off at the top of the card here, 601, 602. Thursday night's college basketball slate, Drexel at William & Mary. We got William & Mary -6 at home, 138 in the hook, the total, Matt.
So we've talked about William & Mary, so I'm not going to run through all of their stuff. But for the people who are new to the podcast this week, William & Mary is a staple. Every Thursday we talk about them. The Tribe are one of the most efficient teams on offense. They are 29th in the country in two-point percentage, 91st in three-point percentage, 54th in free throw percentage. But their offense has hit the skids right now, 57, 88, 58, 59, 60, 50, 64 over this last stretch. So they're not scoring points right now. But we've talked about it in the past. You don't often get totals in the 130s with a team like this. Only 10 times in the last 3 years. Now, granted, 7 of those went under the total, which is a bit of a worry. But you don't often get William & Mary totals at this low number. On the Drexel side, they beat William & Mary at home 84-57 in their last meeting way back a couple of weeks ago. William & Mary shot really badly in that game. They were out-rebounded by a lot, 40-26. Drexel shot the ball really well, which is not very characteristic of them. Away from home this year, they've allowed 80, 72, 85, 71, and 89 in the CAA, and there are some clunkers in terms of offenses in there. Drexel turns the ball over way too much. They're not as good of a team on the road. This feels like a place where William & Mary should get some frustrations out. Hopefully they figure the offensive stuff out. The William & Mary Tribe should win this game rather easily, and I'm going to consider the over here because I think that, once again, we're getting a price here for a team that's just due for an explosion when it comes offensively. So at 138.5, I'm leaning towards William & Mary as a side, and I'm also leaning towards the over here at 138.5.
All right, with the Tribe tonight, William & Mary Tribe, possibly -6, and looking towards the over as well for Mid-Major Matt. We got next game up here, Conference USA action, 631, 632, the rotation numbers if you're following along at home. ODU at Rice. That's Old Dominion at Rice. -1 and a hook is what I'm showing right now. That's the Rice Owls at home, Matt. 141 being the total.
Now, remember, this is the last weekend for Conference USA before the great reshuffling, I like to call it. And for those who are not familiar, Conference USA, after this stretch, is going to change up their schedules. They're going to pair the top 4 teams and then the middle 4 teams and the bottom 4 teams. In theory, it's supposed to help them get better tournament resumes. Now, it's not going to help again this year because Conference USA is going to be a one-bid league. So this is the last set of games, potentially, before they play a whole new set of games starting in a couple weeks. So ODU is an underdog here. They've won 3 of their last 5. They did win on the road at Southern Miss, but their offense is putrid. 294th in two-point percentage, 342nd in three-point percentage. They've scored 60 or less 5 times away from home this season. Rice, they've won 3 straight, but that came after they lost 9 of their last 10. The offense is pretty good. They're putting up some numbers, scoring 80 or more in 4 straight, but their defense is absolutely abysmal. 343rd in two-point defense. Almost half of their shots are three-pointers, which is crazy to think about. Now, ODU's defense is going to show up in this game, I think. The 141.5 seems like a high number. Now, I don't usually take unders, but I'm recommending potentially the under here because I don't think Rice is going to get to 80. I think that what we're going to have here is potentially a slower game. I think ODU's defense is going to stretch out a little bit on Rice's three-point shooting, and I lean to the under here. I don't love unders, so I can understand if people don't want to take it, but 141.5 is a little high for an ODU game. They're not quite UVA when it comes to defense, but the Monarchs' defense is pretty good, and you don't usually see numbers this high in ODU games.
Mid-Major Matt, this being a Conference USA game and it getting reshuffled, like you said, starting, next week, is there anything we can take into it as handicappers that you think can maybe get an advantage here betting Conference USA games, not only this week, but next week when they do reshuffle?
Well, what's going to happen is you may see some teams play each other for a third time. We just finished last weekend where FIU and FAU had home and home on Thursday and Saturday last week. So we may see teams actually play a third time and then potentially in the conference tournament play a fourth time. So you're going to have a lot more. Things to look at when it comes to future matchups. But I think the schedule is important to see who's on the road, what kind of weekend road trips there are. Now they do, I believe, if I remember correctly, they give them either the whole week off so they can prepare because obviously there's travel travel involved, or they at least keep them off until Saturday. So that's something to consider here. It's weird because there's motivation usually in something like this, but as I said, this is a one bid league, and so like ODU is not going to care more or less because of who they're going to play in that reshuffling coming up.
So there's no way you think a second CUSA team gets in?
I don't think so. I mean, Louisiana Tech is playing well this year. I know UAB's been hot and cold in North Texas, but I don't think any of them have any non-conference victories that's going to help them. So whatever they're doing right now is they're kind of just setting each other up to kind of, get the best situation when it comes to the Conference USA tournament, which is in Texas, we can get into that completely. They play in a random practice facility with all sorts of weird sight lines, and we can get into that closer to the tournament. But I don't think there's any extra motivation anywhere. There might be some teams look, if there's a team that's on the cut line for one of the segments as opposed to another, maybe you'll see some sort of extra play. But right now in this conference, there's just not enough good teams for it to matter. And I don't see any extra edges on Thursday, at least, maybe Saturday, depending upon the standings and how they line up.
He's Mid-Major Matt on Twitter, at Mid-Major Matt. Obviously knows his college basketball as good as anybody out there. Check him out, SportsMemo.com. We got 563-564 here. San Francisco at Santa Clara, 9 p.m. Eastern tip here, so 6 p.m. on the Pacific Coast. We got -1 in the hook. That's San Francisco on the road. 148 the total here, Matt.
We had to put a West Coast Conference team in just because Gonzaga is not there. And actually, ironically, St. Mary's, I don't believe, is also playing on Thursday. So San Francisco, they've cooled off tremendously. 3 straight. They've lost 4 of their last 6. They do have a couple road wins, although none of them are very good. San Diego, Pacific, and Fresno State. They're one of the worst teams when it comes to three-point defense. They allow teams to shoot just over 39% from long range. So San Francisco, a team we thought maybe would get up there to the 3rd spot, maybe in the West Coast Conference, is certainly tailing off. Now, they're a slight road favorite in this one. Santa Clara plays at a really quick pace, very efficient offense, 58th in 2-point shooting, 56th in 3-point shooting. They're actually pretty good defensively. They've lost twice at home to Gonzaga, of course. Gonzaga's beating everybody, and Pepperdine at home in overtime. The last time these two teams played, San Francisco won 80-61 at home in a 68-possession game. But when you look closer at the box score, San Francisco shot 63% from 2-point land and out-rebounded the Broncos 45-26. Santa Clara also in that one shot terribly, 15 of 46 from 2 and 4 of 12 from 3-point land. I think that kind of flips over when you come back to a home base here. I think Santa Clara is going to play a little bit better at home. We've already seen a little bit of an adjustment. There's a lot of ones out here by the time we tape this on Wednesday night. The total has come down a little bit. I lean to the over here, and I actually think there's some value in Santa Clara. And since it's 1, you may want to look at the money line, depending upon if you can get even money there, because I think Santa Clara can win this game outright. All
right. Matt, we got Winthrop, Gardner-Webb up next. An added board game here, 4.5. That's Winthrop laying on the road, 141.5 the total. Why'd you want to talk this one?
Well, we talk about Liberty a lot on this show, and that's another team in my state here. Well, Radford, who's a team in Virginia, went into Winthrop, gave them their first conference loss. Pretty ridiculous when you think about it, because Winthrop has been steamrolling teams. Their offense is really good, but Radford shut them down when they had to. So now you've got a Winthrop team coming off their first conference loss. They hit the road to play a Gardner-Webb team. These two teams played in Rock Hill, which is where Winthrop is, earlier this season. Winthrop won 99-95 in triple overtime. So Gardner-Webb gave them everything they could handle. The thing to consider here was 69-69 before the overtimes began, so there was 138 points here. Gardner-Webb shot really well. Winthrop shot really well. They made a combined 44 free throws. Gardner-Webb's won 5 of their last 6. They've scored 80 points or more in 3 of 4 and 4 of their last 6. They're shooting really well in long range in conference play, and they've scored a ton of points at home. You know Winthrop wants to get up and down here. I like the over here. This probably is my best bet. By the time we tape it, Gardner-Webb right now, the total's at 141.5. There's a 142 out there. When it comes to added games, you're going to want to get in early on a number because these things do move. If you're not looking at it, you're going to have to potentially lock it in the moment you watch this podcast. It may move a little bit. I like it up to 144 or so, maybe 144.5, probably no more higher than that. I just think Winthrop's offense is going to click. I think they're going to get whatever they want. They play at a faster pace. Gardner-Webb plays at a slower pace, but they've been really efficient. They're scoring a lot of points at home in conference. So I think the over here for Winthrop and Gardner-Webb is probably going to be my best bet for Thursday's card.
All right. He's Mid-Major Matt at Mid-Major Matt on Twitter. Check his work out at SportsMemo.com. Interested in his service. Also doing MLB, right, Mid-Major Matt?
Yeah, so here's how we do the MLB. We love to jump into the MLB. We start out for the first couple months. I will warn people there's probably going to be a stretch of a couple weeks in baseball. I think a lot of us handicappers have it where we just get burnt out. There's games every night. Baseball season's 200 days, 225 days, and handicapping every day nonstop. I know, at least for me, there's a couple weeks that I just want to be like, look, I'm done. I don't want to look at baseball. I'll take a break. So you could definitely sign up with me for baseball, but just know towards around July, there may be a couple weeks where I'm like, all right, I'm taking my break. I just want to get away, watch a couple games, see what happens, and kind of recalibrate some systems and things like that.
And if you're interested in jumping on board his MLB service, we actually got a special for today. DM695, that makes his whole MLB season less than $700. For $695, you can get his full MLB season. You can get Drew Martin's full MLB season, back-to-back profitable years. You can get Brian Leonard at wagertalk.com, his full season for $695. Really, any handicapper, sportsmemo.com or wagertalk.com, full MLB season using the coupon code DM695 at checkout. Matt, we got a late night special here, and then best bet time to, I guess, lock you in on something here for the listeners. It's been hot as of late, so hopefully keep it rolling. But we got the late night West Coast Degenerate special here, and this is a true Degenerate special. Getting me excited here, Matt. Hopefully you got a recommendation, side, total, something. 681-682, Chicago State at Cal State Bakersfield. And I believe Chicago State, depending what kind of power ratings you want to go off of, is the worst Division I college basketball team. You can correct me if I'm wrong. 135 being the total, minus 3 touchdowns. Yes, that's minus 21, minus 21.5 at some shops. That's Cal State Bakersfield laying that number at home, hosting Chicago State.
Yeah, for me, it's probably a nip and tuck between them and Kennesaw State. Kennesaw State is a one-win team. But Chicago State, they just, it's Kennesaw State, Mississippi Valley State, and probably Chicago State. Ken Pomeroy, who I'm hoping to, knock on wood, talk on to my show on Thursday here in Richmond, has Chicago State as the worst team in the country. 3 of their 4 wins are against Judson, Purdue Northwest, and North Park, which are all teams below them. I don't even know what division they are. By the way, they beat Purdue Northwest at home by 12, and they beat North Park by 13. So they're not.
Is that it? Like the school Purdue, but then there's a Northwest at the end?
I'm guessing. I'm reading right off of Ken Pomeroy's page. Purdue Northwest is the title of the school, and they only beat them by 12. So, that tells you a lot here about what kind of team we're looking at here. And also, if you're familiar with Ken Pomeroy's page, there's 2 things that are green, and then there's about 9,000 things that are blood red for Chicago State. But here's the case with them. I mean, you look at them on the road, they have been absolutely abysmal. In conference, they've lost by 32, 24, and 39. For those who don't have access to Ken Pomeroy's stuff, offensively, they are 335th in 2-point offense, 288th in 3-point offense. They are 338th in 2-point defense. They are 352nd in 3-point defense. Every loss in conference has been by double digits. So you're thinking, okay, well, are we going to lay the points with Bakersfield here? It's not necessarily something I want to do here. Bakersfield's lost 4 straight. They won 3 in a row before that. They're 341st in 3-point defense, and they're the worst team in the country when it comes to free throw shooting. They have put the opponent on the free throw line the most of any team in the country at 53% almost of possessions. So it's a bit of a concern here. Their only double-digit home wins this year, Bakersfield, were against sub-Division I teams, and they beat Hampton, one of our favorites, by 13 points way back in December or November. These two met in Chicago State. Bakersfield won 72-54. Bakersfield out-rebounded them 33-17. Chicago State actually made more free throws than 2 and 3-pointers combined. They made 18 free throws. They made 15 total shots, 9 twos and 6 threes. Once again, I talked about how I don't like taking unders here, Drew, but this one could be an under here because when you look consistently at Chicago State throughout their season, they just don't score a lot of points. And I think Vegas is starting to figure out that, look, they're not scoring points. I'll go over it real quick. The last 5 games, 64, 49, 51, 53, and 54. They don't score over 70 very often this year. Cal Bakersfield also doesn't play at a very fast pace, 318th in the country right now. I think that this one could go snail's pace to the under here. Now, the one thing I'll ask you about, Drew, because I know you're big into Ken Pomeroy, He's got this projected at 140. So we obviously have about a 4.5 point difference here. Do you take into account at all that there's a big difference between Ken Pomeroy and the actual number itself?
Yeah, it definitely matters. So we're seeing a 134.5 in the marketplace, and you're right. I mean, so he's got it a lot higher. So it almost tells me that the market is on to what you're saying in terms of, because I love that profile, and pretty much anything I'm betting big, I'm betting college basketball totals more so than sides. And one thing I like to concentrate on here is bad teams, especially when bad teams are playing bad teams, Matt. There's a higher correlation with an under. For whatever reason in basketball, good teams just score more. Even if they're highly efficient on defense, it's just highly efficient on offense matters for scoring. And in bad teams playing each other, yes, they're going to be bad on defense, but even more importantly, not drastically more importantly, but definitely it's accountable for that. It's more important they're not very talented on offense. So that's what I would kind of point to here. Now, granted, I haven't been involved with the Chicago State or Cal State Bakersfield game all year long, but because it's a true late-night degenerate special, and we're talking about it here on the pod, I'm very interested in betting on it. And your analysis was good, man, and I agree with you. I would look towards the under in this one as well.
I think the only reason they see the over potentially is they think there's going to be a ton of fouls. Chicago State's going to have a parade to the free throw line like they did in the first game. But in the first game, it was still a 72-54 contest. That went over that total, and it would still go under this total. So I don't know. I don't think Cal Bakersfield's all of a sudden going to start running. They're 318th. They just came off a game with 61 possessions. They had a game against New Mexico State with 58 possessions. So I don't see any reason for them to change styles here. So I lean to the under, but Ken Pomeroy is scaring me a little bit here with this big difference.
I think that's a good sign, actually. I'm with you. I think. So what are you? I guess are you going on record with under the 134.5 here?
I'm going on record with the under 134.5. Maybe I hope that there's a correction by the time people watch this podcast and we get a point or two here. I just don't see how it's going to go over this total because I just don't see how Chicago State's going to score, and Cal State Bakersfield doesn't want to run. The average possession on offense is 19 seconds. So you figure they're not a good shooting team either. So I could see a similar 72-54 type game here. So I would lean to the under here, but I'm a little worried and skeptical because Ken Pomeroy has a little different number here.
Yeah, and you got to add in the fact, okay, Cal State Bakersfield's the more talented team, and they're at home, so it would really worry me if they were looking to push pace because they're going to be able to control tempo. But like you're touching on, they're a slow-paced team anyway, so they're going to want to go slow, Matt.
Exactly. And Chicago State has played some faster games, but if you look at the opponents, a lot of the faster opponents make them go faster. I don't think Cal State Bakersfield, the first time they played, it was a 62-possession game. So I could see something similar to that. We're not going to have fouls late. We're not going to have a close game, so I can't see that pushing it over the total. So maybe I'll ask Ken Pomeroy tomorrow when I talk to him, what do you see in the Chicago State Bakersfield game?
I love having that option. And guys, if you're in the Richmond, Virginia area, check Matt out on ESPN Radio there. Matt, can you let them know where they can find you? ESPNRichmond.com. Knock on wood. We tried to have him on Friday. It didn't work out. 3:15, hopefully Eastern time tomorrow, Thursday, on ESPNRichmond.com. And you can find the link on our webpage at ESPN Richmond. All right. And he's been Major Matt on Twitter at MidMajorMatt. Guys, the coupon code for this podcast is DM695 at checkout. MLB season, full season, big savings there, sportsmemo.com. So if you're into MLB betting, check Mid-Major Matt out, Drew Martin out, sportsmemo.com. Also check out Brian Leonard as well. Mid-Major Matt, you want to give out a best bet and any closing thoughts here for the pod?
It's the over in the Gardner-Webb game. It's right now, as of taping, around 141, 141.5. I like it up to 144-ish, 144.5. Probably not above that, but the over in Winthrop and Gardner-Webb are added game special for the podcast.
All right. Mid-Major Matt, thanks for the time. Guys, best of luck with your bets. We'll talk tomorrow.